Welcome back to the second part of this review series. So, whoops, I still have a little soap on my hands from cleaning it out from the first donut that I made. So let's turn to the Fimo basic air dry clay. Let me get out some pieces that I will work with and then we'll get right into it. Okay, so on the package it says that it is similar to China clay and that it is air dry and it is supposed to be white. It says it right here. But, and this is a huge but, this clay is gray. And I do not like this at all. We will see how it works when it's colored. And if it turns whiter as it dries. I mean, on the picture here, this is white. But it's not very similar. So this is gray clay, although it says white on the package. So if you want to start out with actual white air dry clay, using Fimo Fimo Air is not gonna work. You can mix some white acrylic paint, but that's not the point of using white air dry clay, is it? Now, anyways, let's turn to the things that I want to review for you. So first of all, this is a lot drier, I think, than the Do and Dry by Nanunana that I reviewed first. And it's a little harder to knead it also, so it takes a little more strength. So let's try to rip it. A plus for this clay, there are not as many fibers sticking out as with the Do and Dry by Nanunana. Let's try to get another piece. So the surface is a little rough, and you can see it looks like there are layers of clay, but no fibers are sticking out here. So let's try to make a ball again. So I applied some pressure and then I rolled it between my hands, and this came out a lot smoother than the Do and Dry. So I'm not going to be able to smooth that out with my hands, especially if there's dry pieces in there. I do not know where they came from. I mean, this package has been open for a little while now, but I've only taken out a little piece. Okay, so there's no instructions as to using water to smooth out the clay, but I'm just gonna try that out. So try smoothing it out with water. And at first it's very sticky again. I don't know, the camera loses focus, it's really random. But then it smooths out pretty good. So let's try that again. So I've got a huge crack here. So let's try to use some water. And I mean, I went over it twice and the seam already disappeared kind of. So let's try to smooth everything out here. So this clay, as it's gray, might work if you make a piece just using that clay and then you color it after it has dried, like paint on the colors. So you can see there are little pieces coming off when I smooth it, but it is a lot smoother than the Do and Dry. So that's pretty good for this clay. So let's roll out some pieces so we can compare them afterwards. Again, I'm taking 2 toothpicks since I don't have a pasta machine with me. And then I'm using my rolling pin to roll out the clay. So let's turn to rolling out a thinner sheet. By the way, this clay sticks to your fingers a lot. I mean, it's about as easy to get it off again as the Do and Dry. It's a little harder, but you can still get it off. But, you can see here from rolling the clay into balls several times, the palms of my hand turn white or grayish. both sides. Oops, sorry. So keep that in mind. Your hands will get really dirty. The June dry wasn't that bad in that regard. So I've already pre-flattened this a little bit, so I'm getting out the 2 sheets of clay that are 2 sheets of paper that are 4 sheets thick. Lay them here and then roll out the clay. So this might be a problem since the clay sticks to the work surface, remember? So I'm gonna be very gentle here. Whoops. And it sticks to the rolling pin too. And there are some crinkles here, but the same happened to the June dry, so that doesn't matter. And see, I cannot get it off the work surface if I roll it too thin. Rolling out a thin sheet of clay with this particular brand does not work at all. It contracted a little bit, but I'm afraid if I roll it out to the thickness that I want, again, it will rip as soon as I try to take it off the work surface. So I'm just gently smoothing it onto the work surface so that it is straight for cutting. And again, even with the thin piece, although it was a pain getting it off the work surface, it is very smooth at the edge. There's only a little fiber sticking out, but again, you can just smooth that out by running the blade along a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry for 12 hours and I'm going to prepare another piece that's going to dry for 24 hours so that I will be able to review them for you. So let's turn to making the donut. Of course, before we can turn to the donut, I wanted to try to make the little snakes. This clay has already become brittle a little bit, so I'm going to have to add some more water to get it workable again. Of course, if you are going to add a lot of water to your air dry clay in the process of making whatever you are making, it will take longer to dry. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's try rolling that out. And again, I get the feeling that there is air in there, and there is. You can see here. Okay, so I've tried to get the air out of here, but apparently it magically reappears. You can see it rips again here. And I mean, I've pushed this flat so many times now, and there's still air in there, which is like not possible. So again, it feels like there's air in here. You can see that. So this clay is not suitable for making little snakes, so I won't even bother letting that dry because I can't seem to manage to get a snake. I'm going to try to start off with a new piece of clay, so this is still moist, like it still has the original moisture. But even this feels like it has air in it. But oh, it works quite well. So a lot better than the brittle pieces, so I'm just going to have to throw these out. So it looks like there is still some air in the center. I don't know why, but I'm still going to try to let this dry. And now we can turn to making the donuts. So I went ahead and already added the colors to the clay. So a little bit of yellow, a little less of ochre color, and then I also went ahead and added some white acrylic paint, hoping that it will make the clay a little lighter. By the way, this ochre color is actually called burnt sienna. So let's go ahead and mix this. I'm kind of afraid that first the colors won't mix in, and also that this clay will become brittle before I can like mix the colors in completely. I mean, it's so hard to knead this. And I'm making a mess. Look at my fingers. So it would probably be a lot easier if you just like made the piece and then painted it, but I don't like painting clay, whether it's air dry or polymer, so I usually try to mix the colors first and then dust on some chalk pastels. Okay, so here a color comparison. I mean, I used the same amount of clay as I used for the do and dry, and I added the same amount of paint, but I mean, look at this. This is gray and this is gray. So there's really no difference whatsoever. So I'm just gonna try to make a donut shape with this, and then I'm gonna color it later. So coloring this brand of clay, of air dry clay, does not work at all. I do not have enough yellow paint left to color the whole piece, so I'm just gonna paint it afterwards. Okay, so this is the tools that I used. Again, some water for smoothing out the clay, and then this sculpey tool here. I did not show the process of making this donut again, since I did show it for the do and dry clay, and everyone knows how to make donuts, and this is not supposed to be a tutorial series. Anyways, I went ahead and sticked in the head pin already, and now that this donut is ready, it does resemble dough color, so it looks fine. So I'm going to try to dust it with chalk pastels now, and I still have the chalk pastels from the last donut right here. So again, I'm trying to use this crappy brush here, and again I'm going to try to dust on the color first, which is probably not going to work. Let's try using a finger. So that works fine. Look at that. The only problem with that is that you pick up a lot of color, and it looks a little weird, you know. So I dip my finger into a little bit of water so that I can thin out the layer of chalk pastel color here a little bit, because I find it too strong in some places. And then I'm coloring down to sides a little bit. So smoothing out this donut was fairly easy. I barely had to smooth anything out. The only problem was with this part right here in the back, because I mentioned before it has become brittle already. I mean, look at my fingers, they're so dirty. So this clay dries much faster than the do and dry, so keep that in mind if you do choose to work with this brand. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside and let this dry. Again, this clay package was about as large as the do and dry, and it also came in a pack of half a kilo, so 500 grams. So again, this is not a lightweight air dry clay, it's a normal weight air dry clay. I can show you in the package. See, it says 500 grams right here, or 17.63 ounces. So it is quite heavy, just keep that in mind. Okay, so off you go to your drying place. So a quick conclusion for now. So the clay is like a lot harder to knead than the do and dry. It is gray, it is not white, so you have to mix in white acrylic paint, which will be a pain because it's hard to knead, I already mentioned. Or you can just like make a piece and then color it or paint it afterwards, which I don't like, but whatever. So then again, this is quite a heavy clay, so it's 500 grams. It's about the size of my hand. What else is there to say? This clay is really smooth, so there weren't any fibers sticking out whatsoever when I tried to rip pieces off, so that's really neat. But still, since this is gray and not white, I would not recommend using this to make whipple cream. I would use other brands for that, maybe one of the brands that I'm going to show later. So let's wait for the clay pieces to dry and then we'll conclude the whole thing. And also this clay becomes brittle really fast, so it's faster drying than the do and dry. And it gives off a lot of color. I mean, look at how dirty my hands got just from like smoothing and stuff. I mean, I still have acrylic paint on here, but it's really messy working with this clay. A little note, I finally managed to clean my hands. It took me about 5 minutes. So this clay gets brittle really fast, I already mentioned that, and I did not manage to get it soft and smooth again by adding water. So bear that in mind when you work with this clay. So here are all the pieces next to each other. So again, you can see that this clay is really great compared to all the other clays. So these two are the German brands and they are really heavy. Again, remember they came in a half a kilo pack, so they're really heavy. So the coloring on this donut is really nice. I really like that, but that's one of the heavy ones, so I'm gonna have to see about that. So let's turn to the strips from the Fimo Air. Again, this is really moist, so it's like even more, it has more moisture than the Nanunana clay, the do and dry, and it just broke like that. I barely even touched it. So then there's this one, and again, it breaks really easily. Let's look at this piece. Yeah. So this clay is very stiff, so it breaks really easily. I mean, it's probably not all dried, so that's another problem. So 24 hours have passed for the next 3 kinds of clay. So let's move on with the Fimo Air. This one. So it sounds like it's hard, but it's still a little moist, so I'm guessing that this will break. And it is sturdy, but it broke. So it's not, maybe it's not fully cured yet, I can't tell because the pieces feel cold to the touch, so I'm guessing that they're not fully cured yet. Well, I barely picked this up, but this might be due to the structure. Like to the texture of the piece, you can see here. Yeah, but this like snipped when I picked it up. And well, it's also not nice, it curved. So I layered all the pieces flat on the surface, and this one curled up. I don't know why. So this seems pretty sturdy, but it broke too. So don't make pieces too fragile with Fimo Air. Yeah, but still, I do not like this clay at all, just because of the grayish undertone. It's really not nice, because this is supposed to be white, and it's not white at all. The other German brand that I found was Fimo Air in white, as they call it. It is still compared to a white sheet of polymer clay. Not really white. I don't know why the camera doesn't pick it up, but this is actually grayish. Maybe if I shield out the light a little bit, you can see the difference. So this is the polymer clay and that's the Fimo Air. I mean, they're both Fimo, but the air dry clay is definitely not white. So I really don't like that about this. They do not feel like paper. They feel like, what is it called? They use it to like wrap your broken arms in it. And it does break, even the thicker pieces do break, even if I put 2 layers on top of each other, so it's not very durable. And again, this piece, like, it just snaps. It's really easy to break it. I don't think, oh, it does rip apart, so that's interesting. And the same probably goes for those. They crumble beneath my fingers. So this is really, I'm very sorry if Staedtler, I think is the company. I do love Fimo, but Fimo Air is, I'm sorry, crap. So, yeah. I mean, they have these really delicate flowers on the packaging, but I don't think I would ever make flowers with this clay, just because I knew the moment I touched them when they are dry, they would crumble beneath my fingers. I mean, I'm just pressing on this, and it just, I don't know, can you see this? It just broke. Okay, whatever. Again, this is very heavy. It is not as heavy as the other one. And what I do like about this clay, I know I mixed in some white, but this is probably my favorite donut just because I got the colors right. And the top looks nice too. So this would be a good clay for making very solid objects and then paint them either with acrylic paints or with the mix of chalk pastel and water. So that's a plus for this clay. Still, I would not use it for my purposes, but yeah. And again, this is not squishy at all. Oh, by the way, the head pin does hold firmly, so that's a plus. And it's the same with the other German clay. Yeah. Okay, still I would not use this clay for my purposes. I already mentioned this, just because it's very heavy. It is gray and it is not squishy. Okay, moving on.